South Carolina's tourism board sells horse carriages and sweet tea. The actual state runs on roads, laws, and geography that feel designed by committee and never fixed. Here are 43 real reasons to never trust a welcome to sign again. Number 1. Charleston is a peninsula city that built its entire modern identity around tourism, then somehow only gave itself a handful of bridges to get on and off that peninsula. Rush hour traffic doesn't flow so much as it negotiates. One fender bender on the Ravenel Bridge and the whole city quietly grinds into a parking lot with a harbor view. Who designs an entire downtown's evacuation plan around hope for the best? Number 2. Myrtle Beach's Ocean Boulevard has stacked so many traffic lights so close together that locals joke you can walk faster than you can drive it in July. Somewhere a city planner looked at a 15-mile beach town and decided the correct move was a red light every few hundred feet. Could you imagine commuting through that every single summer weekend? Number 3. South Carolina has a town literally named Coward. Not a nickname, not a joke, an actual post office address. Meanwhile, a few counties over sits due west. A town that got its name from being due west of basically nothing important enough to name it after. The state's naming committee, if one ever existed, appears to have given up almost immediately. Number 4. Santee Cooper, the massive twin lake system in the middle of the state, exists because engineers dammed rivers in the 1940s and flooded entire towns and cemeteries to make it happen. Locals still tell stories about church steeples visible underwater in low water years. The state drowned its own history to build a reservoir. Number 5. The Angel Oak on Johns Island is estimated at somewhere between 400 and 1,500 years old. And the official protection around it amounts to a modest fence and a gift shop. A living thing older than the concept of South Carolina itself is guarded about as seriously as a community garden. Number 6. Some small low-country towns still run on single-lane swing bridges and pontoon crossings that open for boat traffic on a schedule seemingly invented by whoever felt like it that morning. If a fishing boat wants through at 40:45 p.m., your commute simply doesn't matter anymore. Basic road logic says traffic should have priority over recreational boating. South Carolina disagreed. Number 7. There's a roadside attraction called South of the Border sitting right on the North Carolina line. Built entirely around a fictional Mexican bandit mascot and a 200-foot sombrero tower. And it has somehow survived since the 1950s as one of the most bizarre welcome mats any state has ever agreed to keep standing. Would you trust a rest stop shaped like a novelty hat? Number 8. Greenville rerouted so many downtown streets during redevelopment that longtime residents still give directions using buildings torn down a decade ago. GPS apps regularly send visitors into a one-way maze that used to be a two-way grid. Have you ever tried following directions to a building that no longer exists? Number 9. South Carolina State House grounds have monuments added, moved, and reinterpreted so many times over the decades that the physical layout reads less like a coherent memorial and more like an argument frozen in bronze. Basic civic design should tell a clear story. Here it tells several, standing shoulder to shoulder, disagreeing. Number 10. The Edisto River is one of the longest free-flowing blackwater rivers in North America, yet huge stretches of it have almost no public boat access for miles at a time. A state with this much water somehow made it inconvenient to actually get on the water. Have you ever seen a natural resource this poorly plumbed for public use? Number 11. Aiken's downtown still has hitching posts for horses built directly into the parking layout, because the town genuinely expects you to share curb space with someone's thoroughbred. Modern parking planning assumes cars. Aiken assumes cars and also, apparently, livestock. Number 12. Several small upstate towns technically ban unauthorized fortune-telling and palm reading within city limits, ordinances that have sat on the books since the early 20th century and never quite got repealed. Nobody enforces it, nobody remembers writing it, and yet there it sits, waiting. Number 13. And the town planners somehow get even lazier. Parts of coastal Highway 17 flood so predictably during heavy rain that locals treat certain intersections like tide charts, timing errands around when the road will simply become a lake. A major coastal highway should not double as a seasonal wetland. Number 14. Ridgeville and a cluster of nearby low-country towns are crossed by dirt roads that appear on official state maps as fully paved routes. Follow the GPS and you'll find your sedan bottoming out in a sand pit that some cartographer decided was close enough to asphalt. Number 15. Beaufort's historic district enforces strict architectural preservation rules on paint colors and porch styles, block by block, while the drainage system a few streets over still floods ankle deep during an average summer thunderstorm. Priorities, apparently, are about curb appeal first, actual water management a distant second. Number 16. South Carolina's official state dance is the shag, and beach towns take it seriously enough that during shag festivals, stretches of active public roadway get shut down so couples can dance directly in the middle of what is, every other week of the year, a functioning traffic lane. Number 17. And somehow we're still just scratching the surface. Walterboro calls itself the front porch of the low country, and leans so hard into that branding that alligator crossing signs are treated as a quaint tourist charm rather than the very real hazard they represent on the actual roads. Would you relax on a front porch that shares a yard with reptiles? Number 18. Sumter's downtown traffic circle, one of the largest of its kind in the country, was designed in an era before anyone anticipated modern traffic volume, and it now routinely confuses of town drivers into looping it 2 or 3 times before finding their exit. A roundabout should resolve confusion. This one manufactures it. Number 19. Several small towns in the PD region still technically restrict certain activities on Sundays under old blue laws, including limits on alcohol sales that create a genuinely confusing patchwork, where the legal rules change block by block depending on which municipal line you've crossed. Have you ever seen a law this inconsistently drawn? Number 20. Lake Murray was created in the 1930s by damming the Saluda River, and the dam itself was, for decades, considered one of the largest earthen dams on the planet, holding back a reservoir the size of a small county upstream of the state capital. Number 21. Columbia, the capital city, sits at the literal geographic center of the state, a decision made specifically so no region would have to travel too far to reach it. Modern traffic patterns into downtown Columbia suggest the planners solved the distance problem and then created an entirely new congestion problem to replace it. Number 22. Georgetown's historic rice fields, once some of the most profitable agricultural real estate in the country, are now mostly swamp and wildlife refuge, crisscrossed by old irrigation canals that occasionally swallow unsuspecting kayakers who assumed historic waterway meant clearly marked. Number 23. This is where the list stops being cute. Spartanburg has 7 different exits off Interstate 26 within a few miles of each other, several of which dump traffic directly onto the same congested surface street. A driver could functionally take the wrong exit 5 different times before finding the right one. Number 24. Some upstate counties still maintain very literal, very old ordinances about what can and cannot be sold on a public sidewalk. Rules seemingly written for a horse and buggy commercial district that hasn't existed in a century, yet still applied, selectively, whenever a food truck shows up somewhere City Hall doesn't like. Number 25. Hilton Head Island has only 2 bridges connecting it to the mainland, for a population that swells into the hundreds of thousands during peak season, and hurricane evacuation plans rely on those same 2 bridges not becoming a bottleneck. Number 26. Congaree National Park protects one of the last significant expanses of old, growth bottomland forest in the country, and yet the boardwalk trail system floods so reliably during wet seasons that the trail is currently underwater, is a genuinely normal park alert, not an emergency one. Number 27. Florence sits at the crossroads of 2 major interstates, a location so convenient that the surrounding intersection has become one of the most congested truck bottlenecks on the entire eastern seaboard. Number 28. Certain small towns near the Georgia border still argue, informally but with real regional pride, over whose peaches are actually superior, despite Georgia holding the official peach state nickname while South Carolina quietly grows more peaches in most years. The rivalry over fruit branding is more intense than several actual policy debates in this state. Number 29. This one makes even less sense the more you look at it. A stretch of the Carolina border was so poorly surveyed in the 1700s that when it was corrected with GPS in the 2010s, dozens of homes had to be legally reassigned to a different state overnight, changing taxes and school districts without anyone moving an inch. Number 30. Cherow's downtown historic district still uses a series of narrow one-way brick streets originally laid out for horse-drawn wagons, and modern delivery trucks routinely get stuck trying to navigate turns that were never meant to accommodate anything wider than a buggy wheelbase. Number 31. The Palmetto State's official state animal roster includes a wild turkey, a white-tailed deer, a loggerhead sea turtle, a Carolina wren, a spotted salamander, and several more, an oddly enormous menagerie of officially designated critters for one government to keep formally endorsing. Number 32. Chapin and the surrounding Lake Murray communities were built so close to the reservoir's edge that during periodic dam maintenance drawdowns, entire boat docks are left stranded on dry mud, sometimes for months, turning waterfront property into what is functionally lakeless property with a great view of nothing. Number 33. Have you ever seen a state agency name change this often? South Carolina's Transportation Department has been reorganized and renamed enough times that road maintenance for certain rural routes has gotten lost in the bureaucratic shuffle, leaving county roads in a no-man's land where nobody wants to claim the pothole. Number 34. And somehow we're still just scratching the surface. The James Island connector into Charleston was built as a toll road, then had its tolls removed, then saw traffic volume balloon so far past its original design capacity that the solution to bridge congestion accidentally created a brand new bridge congestion problem a few years later. Number 35. Now we start getting into the genuinely unhinged territory. A handful of small, low-country towns are built on barrier islands with only one road in and one road out, and that single road sits low enough that a moderately high tide, with zero storm involved, can close it. Not a hurricane, not even bad weather, just Tuesday's regular tide schedule. Number 36. Sit with this one. South Carolina's own state legislature has met inside a building that, at various points, needed emergency structural repairs due to age and settling, while the lawmakers inside continued debating budget priorities for infrastructure everywhere else in the state. The building writing the rules about crumbling roads was, itself, quietly crumbling. Would you trust budget decisions made under a ceiling like that? Number 37. Certain small towns near the Savannah River were relocated in full decades ago to make way for federal nuclear and hydroelectric projects, meaning the historic downtown you can visit today in some of these communities is a relocated replica sitting miles from where the actual history happened. The past got moved like furniture. Number 38. Would you ever move to a town like this? Some low-country communities are so low lying that basic yard drainage during a normal rainstorm requires homeowners to install their own sump systems just to keep water out of a house that was, in some cases, built before anyone bothered checking the flood elevation. Number 39. Parts of the Grand Strand were developed so aggressively during the mid-20th century tourism boom that entire neighborhoods went up directly on former wetlands with minimal drainage planning, and residents are still paying for it. Number 40. A stretch of interstate near the North Carolina line was so poorly planned around merging traffic that it earned an unofficial reputation among truckers as one of the most dangerous merge points in the entire region. A reputation that persisted for years before any redesign was even proposed. Basic on-ramp geometry, apparently, is optional. Number 41. This is where the list stops making sense entirely, because of that centuries-old border dispute. Isolated pockets still exist where property lines and fire department jurisdictions don't cleanly match state lines, meaning a house fire in some border communities has historically required two separate state emergency systems to agree who was supposed to respond. Number 42. This is the one that should genuinely worry you. South Carolina's coastline loses measurable ground to erosion every single year, publicly documented, well understood, not remotely secret, and beachfront municipalities kept approving new high-rise construction directly on the most vulnerable stretches of sand well into recent decades. Everyone involved knew the ground was moving. They built anyway. Number 43. And here's the one that ties the whole list together. The same barrier islands mentioned earlier, the ones with a single tide, dependent road in and out, are also some of the most densely developed, most expensive real estate in the entire state. South Carolina looked at its most geographically unstable, most access-limited land and decided that was exactly where the premium vacation homes should go. Who actually approved that blueprint? So there it is. 40. 3 reminders that the line between quaint regional charm and borderline unmanageable infrastructure disaster is thinner than any tourism campaign wants you to believe, and South Carolina has spent a few hundred years dancing right along that line without ever quite falling off it. Common sense, it turns out, is the rarest natural resource this state has. Which one of these 43 surprised you the most? And which state do you think could actually give South Carolina a run for its money in the questionable planning department? Drop your answer. Because I already have a feeling the replies are going to turn into their own list. And if strange, real corners of American geography are your kind of rabbit hole, you know exactly what to do from here.